While the eyes of the whole world are on the India-Pakistan tension, something is happening on the border of Bangladesh and Myanmar that could change the geopolitical situation of the entire South Asia. At any time, Bangladesh's sovereignty and national security could be seriously threatened. Bangladesh has expressed its in-principle agreement on a humanitarian passage or humanitarian corridor under the auspices of the United Nations to reach relief aid in Myanmar's civil war-torn Rakhine. But questions are being raised from various quarters about who, where, by what process, and on what basis such important decisions are being made. Because this corridor could become a battleground for geopolitical security, regional politics, and military interests. According to the United Nations, humanitarian corridors are a safe route for relief to reach war-torn or crisis-affected areas. However, practical experience shows that these corridors... First, international NGO camps were set up, then intelligence and mapping operations began, then weapons, drones, and intelligence equipment were gradually introduced, and finally, the area was lost to control. Humanitarian corridors have been used many times in the past, but each time there were complex political and military policies behind such initiatives. As a result, the story of the failure of humanitarian corridors is not new in the history of the world. The corridor, which was opened by the United Nations and Turkey after the earthquake in northern Syria in 2023, was initially to help disaster-affected people, but later became a route for supplying supplies and weapons to rebel groups. This corridor has been repeatedly questioned in the face of opposition from Russia and the Assad government, and finally, which forced Turkey to accept about 3 million refugees. A similar situation was seen in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. In 2022, aid supplies from the UN-backed humanitarian corridor were looted by the Tigray People's Liberation Front (TPLF), and a UN convoy was also attacked there. Later, this corridor became a route of arms smuggling. Although the humanitarian corridor was opened with the aim of helping the oppressed people, there were many incidents of such anarchy through it in the world. And these examples prove that the humanitarian corridor is not just a path of sympathy, but a strategic area of regional politics and military interests. If Bangladesh agrees to the UN-proposed humanitarian corridor inside Rakhine, it could become a lifeline for the Arakan army, increasing the risk of infiltration by rebel groups, drug and arms smuggling, and militant activity in the border areas. If the stalemate in Rohingya repatriation and the ongoing war in Rakhine continue, millions of Rohingya could enter Bangladesh under the pretext of this corridor. If Bangladesh were to assume responsibility for overseeing the corridor's activities, it could be the beginning of foreign interference in the country's internal politics. Various political parties, including BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami, have expressed concern over the government's approach to the corridor and demanded an explanation. Analysts believe that the humanitarian corridor is no longer just a means of relief, it has become a form of modern Cold War. Big powers use the territory of weak states to implement their strategic interests. In the context of tensions between China and the United States, this corridor proposal could create international pressure on Bangladesh. The Bangladesh government has not yet made a formal decision on the corridor proposal. The Foreign Ministry said it is monitoring the issue. However, it is important to deeply consider national security, regional stability, and internal political realities before taking any decision. In the pages of history, many nations have lost their land and independence under the guise of humanitarian corridors. Is Bangladesh walking the same path? Humanitarian corridor in Rakhine, a new chapter of humanity or a geopolitical chess piece? That is the question to be explored now, because the corridor is very sensitive and a question of state sovereignty. According to analysts, the unelected interim government cannot decide on this issue. Of course, all the mainstream political parties must be consulted. It is also necessary to clarify where the corridor will be, what is the national interest of Bangladesh there, and what will be the management and how much control Bangladesh will have there. Otherwise, if any complications arise on this issue, or if any question of Bangladesh's sovereignty really arises, the responsibility will be taken by Dr. Yunus's interim government. S.M. Sharmin Jahan, Daily Sun.
Follow us on Facebook. Subscribe our YouTube channel. Get the latest update on www.daily-sun.com.